Today we're going to decode one of the classic tools in macroeconomics, the ISLM model. It's a really cool framework that basically lets us see the entire economy in one simple graph. So let's get right into it. At the heart of this whole thing is a really big question, one that affects everybody, from huge governments all the way down to you and me. How are interest rates, the cost of borrowing money, and the total income of a nation, its GDP, how do they actually affect each other? Well, to get to the answer, the model does something pretty clever. It simplifies the entire messy economy into two different but totally connected worlds. On one side, you've got the goods market. Think of this as the real economy, where we're all buying and selling actual stuff. And on the other side, you've got the money market, the financial world of banks and interest rates, where money itself is managed.
All right, let's start with the real economy first. This is the world of stuff, of goods and services. And in our model, it's represented by something called the IS curve.
So what does IS stand for? It's pretty straightforward. Investment and savings. And it's all built on one key idea. The goods market is perfectly balanced. It's in equilibrium when the total amount of investment happening in the economy is exactly equal to the total amount of savings. So how does that actually play out? Well, try thinking like a business owner for a second. When interest rates fall, it suddenly gets cheaper to borrow money, right? So you're more likely to take out a loan to, say, build a new factory. That means businesses invest more, and all that investment creates jobs, it boosts production, and the whole economic output, the GDP, starts to grow. And that simple chain of events is exactly what gives the IS curve its shape. You see it here, sloping downward. With interest rates on the vertical axis and GDP on the horizontal, it shows that inverse relationship. The key takeaway is simple. In the goods market, lowest interest rates lead to higher economic output.
Okay, so that's one side of the coin. Now let's switch gears and hop over to the other side of the economy, the financial engine, the money market. And this is the home of the LM curve. LM stands for liquidity preference and money supply. Now, liquidity preference is just a fancy way of saying how much people demand cash. Liquid assets. So this curve shows us every point where the amount of money people want to hold is perfectly balanced with the amount of money that's actually available.
But why do we want to hold on to money in the first place? The famous economist John Maynard Keynes broke it down into three really simple, common-sense reasons. First, we need cash for everyday transactions, like buying coffee. Second, we keep some on hand for precautionary reasons, for emergencies. And third, we hold some for speculative reasons, just in case a great investment opportunity pops up.
Now think about what happens when the economy is doing really well and incomes are high. People are out there buying more stuff, businesses are making more deals, everybody just needs more cash on hand for all these transactions. So you have this higher demand for money, but the supply is limited. And what happens when demand goes up for a limited item? The price goes up. And the price of money? Well, that's just the interest rate.
And that's the logic that gives us this upward-sloping LM curve. As the economy's output, or GDP, gets bigger along the bottom axis, the interest rate has to go up to keep that money market in balance. It's a direct relationship. They move together.
So we've got this tension, right? In the goods market, more growth means lower interest rates. But in the money market, more growth means higher interest rates. These two forces are kind of pushing against each other. So where does the economy finally settle?
Well, let's put both curves on the same graph and see where we land. It's time to find that one point where both markets can finally agree.
And there it is. The spot where the IS and LM curves cross is the economy's single equilibrium point. This is the one and only combination of national income and interest rates where the goods market and the money market are both in balance at the exact same time. It's where everything is in harmony.
Okay, so this is a really neat theoretical model, but so what? Why does it matter in the real world? Well, because this simple graph gives policymakers an incredibly powerful tool to understand and even influence the direction of the economy.
You see, there are two main levers that policymakers can pull. You've got fiscal policy, that's the government's job, using spending and taxes. That directly hits the goods market, so it shifts the IS curve. Then you have monetary policy. That's the central bank's job, controlling the money supply. That impacts the money market, so it shifts the LM curve.
Let's see how this works. Say the government wants to boost the economy. It could increase its spending. That's expansionary fiscal policy. What happens? That action shifts the IS curve to the right, and the result is a brand new equilibrium with higher economic output, but it also comes with a higher interest rate.
Now what if the central bank decides to step in instead? It can increase the money supply,
That's expansionary monetary policy. This time, it's the LM curve that shifts to the right. And check out the new equilibrium. We still get more economic growth, but this time it comes with a lower interest rate. Two completely different paths to boost the economy.
So you see, the ISLM model is so much more than just a static picture. It's a dynamic map that helps us predict the consequences of these huge policy decisions, showing us how they're likely to ripple across the entire economy and affect both income and interest rates.
And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty big thought. This model was developed decades ago for a very different kind of economy. In our modern world, with global shocks, digital currencies, and everything moving at lightning speed, does this elegant, classic model still give us the right answers? Now that's the billion-dollar question.